Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Lawyer Stuff. My name is Rucha Ashtaputre and today's topic of discussion is very interesting. So I'll give you a situation and tell your opinion in our comment section. So there is a person lying on bed for more than 38 years. She's virtually dead, cannot hear, cannot even communicate, and the decision of giving her euthanasia is pending in court. What would be your suggestions as a law student? So put that thought in the comment section. And let's begin with today's discussion, that is a landmark decision of Aruna Ramchandra Shanbaug. So even before we start the case, let me tell you what is euthanasia. Euthanasia is mostly used in medical field. It is a practice of killing a person intentionally to end the suffering and pain. So to give euthanasia to Aruna, was it against Article 21 of Indian Constitution was the question lying in this case. So let's see who is Aruna before we start everything. Yes, that is Aruna Ramchandra Shanbaug was a 32-year-old nurse staff in King Edward Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, that is KEM Hospital, Mumbai. On 27th November 1973, a sweeper of her own hospital staff tried to commit a rape against her. And during this process, he used dog chain to immobilize her. So during that process, there was lack of oxygen to her brain, which caused her brain damage, and there was a lot of injury in her brain, and she was found lying next day. So from there begins the story. So after the medical procedures, she was found virtually dead. She couldn't even hear, she couldn't even speak, she couldn't even see, she couldn't even communicate herself, she couldn't even chew her own food. She was in this bad state due to lack of oxygen to her brain, which caused her severe brain damage, and she was bedridden. Since then, for 38 years, she was in KEM hospital, lying on the bed, and the staff of the hospital was taking care of her day and night, year after year. And during that time, there was a social worker named Pinky Virani who used to visit her and wrote a book on her pain, and she decided to file a writ petition in Supreme Court asking for legalizing euthanasia in India so that Aruna Shanbaug can die peacefully. The team of three doctors was set up to evaluate her physical and mental health. And during that time, the doctors drew conclusion that she could recognize the presence of people in her room. She made certain noises to express her likes and dislikes towards certain foods or certain music, but she couldn't respond to her own name, and due to which they said that she was not brain dead, but she had developed a PVS state. PVS is persistive vegetative state in which a person is not completely brain dead, but severe brain damages have occurred and is majorly injured. Union of India Council believed that we couldn't take her right to live even in this state, and we couldn't take away her basic needs on which she survived for 38 years. That is a smashed banana. She lived for 38 years only on a smashed banana every day. And KEM hospital was so emotionally invested in her, and taking her life would be so injustice and so disheartening for them. Euthanasia are of two types. One is active euthanasia, another is passive euthanasia. So active euthanasia means use of some lethal weapons like injections to end a person's life, whereas passive euthanasia is not treating a person or not doing certain acts which causes death of a patient. Active euthanasia is something which is done, whereas passive euthanasia is something which is not done. So in major of the states, passive euthanasia is legal because they think that ending someone's life by not doing certain act is okay, but doing something additional to kill a person intentionally is not okay, and that is why it is illegal in major of the countries, whereas passive euthanasia is legal in some countries. So when it comes to India, Article 21 of Indian Constitution speaks about right to life and liberty. So, right to life and liberty includes right to live with dignity but does not include right to die or right to suicide. So, suicide or committing suicide is an offense in India, but you cannot punish a person because he's already dead. But if there is any attempt to suicide, then it is punishable. First point is active euthanasia is something which is done. Second point is suicide is not legal in India. And third point is abatement to suicide is also an offense under Indian Penal Code. So, if a doctor is doing something to kill a person, it becomes abatement to suicide and it is an offense. And even Article 21 do not include right to die. So, it cannot be legalized in India was the conclusion, but still a passive euthanasia was the option. So before going to passive euthanasia, there is another factor, that is voluntary euthanasia and involuntary euthanasia. Voluntary euthanasia is when a patient himself give a consent to the doctor to end his life, whereas involuntary euthanasia is where consent cannot be drawn. For example, if a patient is in coma, then his consent cannot be drawn. At that time, who should be the one who should be giving consent to end a person's life is a question. So, according to in the discussion paper for treatment of PVS in 1992, every effort should be made for at least 6 months to bring that person back to a normal state. And after that, if a person is still not coming out of that situation, then they can end a person's life, and the consent can be drawn from a parent, from a spouse, from a close relative, or a close friends. And in this case, her parents were no longer, her close friends had abandoned her long back, and it was KEM hospital came in front and took care of her completely for 38 years, day and night, year after year, without taking any break. In such a way they had taken the care that even a bed sore was not found on her body. And the court came to the conclusion that Pinky Irani cannot be the one who files a writ petition in the court asking for euthanasia for Aruna Shanbaug, whereas it should be KEM hospital who should be filing a petition for asking euthanasia. So in this case, the court held that passive euthanasia can be legalized to some extent, but not active euthanasia. And Aruna Shanbaug was not given euthanasia, and she lived for 42 years. And at the end, she died out of pneumonia. Here comes end to our today's video, and if you like our content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, comment and share it with your friends. Thank you.